All right, joining us on the show today, we have a local independent wrestler who you could see at a lot of upcoming Northeast Wrestling shows if you head on over to northeastwrestling.com. He is Vinny Marseglia. Vinny, thank you so much for coming on today, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. And now, from what I hear, this week marks 7 years since you were trained professionally by Matt Hyson, Spike Dudley, and Ryan Drew. What can you tell us about how you first got into wrestling and training with Spike and Ryan?
Sure. So basically, just like every pro wrestler, you grow up, most pro wrestlers, I should say, you grow up as a wrestling fan. You start off just like everybody else. I'm from Rhode Island area, so I've gone to a lot of events over at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, Civic Center that's located in Providence. My father, my family in general as a whole were always wrestling fans. Like during the Warrior times, Brett and Shawn Michaels times. So every time there was an event, my father, my cousins, we'd always go as like a big family thing. There's a big pizza place down there, so we'd hit that, and then we'd go over to the arena for the wrestling shows where, I'd dress up as the Ultimate Warrior or the Rockers or whoever I was into at the time, which are two, the tag team, the Rockers and the Warriors, guys that I was into when I was younger. So when I got older through high school, I had my buddies that like to, play wrestler on the trampoline or the backyard or whatever. You have that little crew of guys in ninth grade or whatever you go through high school with, and you all love wrestling. Then I ended up meeting a girl whose boyfriend actually trained at a place in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. So I went there. It was my first time stepping into a real professional wrestling ring, which, I loved it. I continue to love it, even though it was a little different, more different than what I thought it would be, as it is for everybody when they first get in. But I started training with them. I did a few local, like VFW, smaller, independent, random places that nobody knows of or known of. And then Ryan Drew, who was Spike's assistant trainer at the time, who's now the head trainer at the Lockup Academy in Fall River, Massachusetts. He was at a local VFW show because they had a bar there. He was a couple of miles down the road was his school, and another promotion was his top rope promotion you can see wrestles with now. He had saw me at this VFW show, and he just kind of, took a liking because I stood out athletically, and, I was a little taller than a lot of the other dudes at this place. I was, more, I kind of was one of the guys that you could tell took it a little more serious than others. So he kind of said, hey, would you like to come down and train with myself and Spike Dudley? Now, at first, I was kind of intimidated because at this point in the VFW wrestling world, I'm like the guy. You know what I mean? And it's like one random hole in the wall that nobody knows of. I'm like the guy. I'm like the champion. I'm like, this is great. But I really don't know anything of what I'm doing because I wasn't ever properly trained. So I ended up going to Spike Dudley's lockup school in Fall River with him and Ryan Drew. It was like myself and Matt Taven, actually, are two guys that started training together there. Then you had like Michael Bennett, who would come in from time to time. So we were all kind of like that crew at the time. So I broke in with Ryan and Spike, pretty much started from scratch. Like I went into Spike school and wrestled around with my buddy Matt, and they basically said, you guys don't know what you're doing. So it basically broke us down to a clean slate to build us back up to know what we're doing correctly.
Sure.
And ever since then is when I, kind of stayed with it. Put a lot of hours and a lot of work into training, 3 times a week. And I'm actually doing this interview now. I had just gotten a training. I just pulled in. I'm outside of the facility right now. And, still to this, I'm in a different facility now, but, still to this day, I'm still in the ring, even though I know pretty much what I'm doing. It's always good to keep those skills sharp, So that's how I pretty much broke into it. He had discovered me at one of those random shows and invited me down. And then ever since, I knew, wow, this is actually a lot cooler once you, know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in love with it ever since then. Yeah, so 7 years yesterday, actually.
Awesome. Now, what would you consider what was the toughest part about breaking into the wrestling business, would you say?
The toughest part, in wrestling in general for me is as far as I'm concerned, is it's tough to balance with what I got going on outside of wrestling. I have a wife, I have a home, I have a daughter who's just 2 years old, so it's tough to balance that, because right now at this point, let's face it, I'm not a big national star, or anything like that, where I'm making like a killing here. I'm doing okay, but I'm not making a killing at all by any means. So I got to make sure that I'm able to support my family. So it's like, for me now, it's tough to balance. And luckily, I have a great wife who supports me and wants me to go as far as I can. So luckily, I have that. But the biggest thing is just that overwhelming feeling of like, okay, is this going to work out or is it not going to work out? Like, what's going to happen? What am I going to have to go to a fallback? What is exactly going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to pick this up more and get better? Am I at a plateau? So it's always back and forth with wrestling, but that's like the nature of the beast. You got to kind of take it for what it is.
Sure. Now, I mentioned that earlier, you're a big part of Northeast Wrestling. You've been with them for quite some time now. Can you tell us a little bit about your time with them and maybe how you started with them and all your thoughts being with them since then?
Oh, yeah. So I love Northeast Wrestling. I think when I think of pro wrestling, I think of like shows when I was a kid of like interaction, the crowd being a part of what's going on, and the crowd being invested in what you're doing and the characters and personalities of the show. And I think Northeast Wrestling puts out a good variety of that. I started doing little like fair shows for Northeast Wrestling. Like 4 years ago, just some smaller shows. Michael Lombardi, who's the promoter, was having me come down just for some random spot, like fair shows. Nothing big, nothing drastic, whatever. I took time off. I had my daughter. I bought my house. I took time off from wrestling, period. So when I came back, I was actually more mature. I was bigger. I was just more developed as a person, never mind wrestler. You know what I mean? So I matured not only in real life, but I matured, in the ring as well. So it pretty much just came back as like a totally different guy. So now, and I think a lot of people have seen that, seen that change. So it's like, okay, he went from kid Vinny to adult Vinny now. So now he's more, developed and, I'm ready to go. So I started doing the shows with Northeast Wrestling. I've had a lot of great shows with them, a ton of awesome experiences. I was Northeast Wrestling Tag Team Champion with Frankie Ariane, and he just disappeared randomly. I've had a one-on-one singles match with Jeff Hardy. That's actually always been a match from my teenage years of being a wrestling fan that I've always wanted to happen, and it actually happened. So it was pretty wild. That was a wild moment for me. As a wrestling fan, I don't care, whatever. Everybody's a wrestling fan, you know what I mean? So that was a cool moment for me. The teenage wrestling fan in me was like going ballistic. So, and then I got to work, the Hardy Boys together in a tag team match. Just a ton of stuff with Northeast Wrestling. I mean, I love it there. You know what I mean? That's pretty much my home base now. But I've done some other stuff with like, Top Rope Promotions in my past. Who I was with for a long time, which I won the Kowalski Cup tournament, the Killer Kowalski Cup tournament, and won twice in the year 2013 and 2015. So, that was pretty cool too. And then, I've done like Chaotic Wrestling, which I've been tag team champion for them as well. So I've done some cool stuff so far. Northeast Wrestling is great. I mean, if anybody can get to a show, their crowds are awesome. Their hometown, their home shows in Bethany, Connecticut. There's a great atmosphere for wrestling. It's family orientated, so you can bring the entire family to check those out. But it's definitely a good time.
Now, you mentioned Jeff Hardy, too. Northeast Wrestling has so many amazing shows and creates some of the biggest dream matches in all of pro wrestling. Who are some of your dream opponents that maybe you have yet to face that are still around?
Ooh, in all of pro wrestling?
Sure, yeah, in all pro wrestling. Maybe that one day you could meet.
In all of pro wrestling, Chris Jericho is one on the list for me that I hope to someday get in there with. That'd be great. You know what I mean? I would love that, and I guarantee it would be great. There's just the list would go on and on of dream matches. I would like to wrestle everybody that I possibly can. To be honest with you, I love wrestling. So anybody that can, that we can make that happen with, I'm totally down. But Jericho is definitely one that's been like in the back of the mind, like always, as a younger wrestling fan and growing up with wrestling. He's been a guy that I've always kind of like loved to watch his work in the ring. So Chris Jericho is definitely a guy that you can put at the top of that list.
All right. And I see a lot of things online with you with Inksanity. For the fans who aren't aware of what Inksanity means, maybe what can you tell them about?
Inksanity is it's basically a brand that I decided to come out with that I think fits me better than anything. There are times that I'm completely out of my mind and I'm covered in ink. So, what better way? You can't deny it. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And I just think it's a cool little brand that you can kind of like run with and you can, come out with a lot of cool different t-shirts and different stuff with it that I think a lot of people have kind of hooked onto and latched onto and kind of admired. So, I'm kind of putting it out there, just trying different stuff, I like it. I think it's cool. I think the logo's cool. I think the whole thing's cool. So, I guess that's all that matters, really, right?
Sure, definitely. Now, you got some awesome tattoos, but is there any other professional wrestler out there that you would say has maybe better ink than you or maybe up in that level?
Oh, there's tons of people that have great ink in pro wrestling. Yeah, there's a ton of guys that have, but there's also a ton of guys that have really bad tattoos. But there are definitely like a lot of guys out there that whose work that I admire for sure. It's you get what you pay for. So if you want nice tattoos, you got to go spend the money and put in the work for it. It is what it is, just like anything else.
How do you go about deciding what tattoos you get? Is there anything behind that?
I've kind of done, like, I have one dedicated to my daughter. I have one, my entire chest piece is dedicated to it's inspired. I shouldn't say dedicated. That's a little strong. But inspired by my favorite movie, The Lost Boys. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever seen it, but it's like 1980s.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite movie of all time. So I kind of have like the boardwalk in the background with like all the carnival rides, and then like have two roses with the stakes going through them, and then I have a stereo system in the middle of my chest, and then the 4 skulls around it, which kind of represent each vampire.
Awesome.
Because for me to do pro wrestling, and I can't have Kiefer Sutherland's portrait in the middle of my chest. So I made it in kind of like my own kind of swag way that I would envision it on me, and kind of made it my own, and that's what I came up. It's actually my favorite piece. I love it. So
sure.
Looks good in photographs too.
Definitely. And now, as we mentioned earlier, too, you've been around the business right now for about 7 years. This week, 7 years. What would you consider maybe the greatest moment of your career thus far? You mentioned meeting Jeff Hardy in the ring was great, but was there one moment maybe that stood out beyond anything else, or maybe a moment?
So far?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah. So far, that one is definitely up there. Just as a dream as like a young guy. But overall, my career, I'd say me versus Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World Title, which was this past April in my hometown. So that was probably my career highlight so far. Because that title has been passed through a lot of hands. You know what I mean? A lot of respectable hands in pro wrestling. So it was an honor for me to stand across from Jay performing for the Ring of Honor World title in a one-on-one match in my hometown. I mean, that was probably my highlight so far. My career was great.
Awesome. Now, you're making quite the name for yourself on the independent level, but do you have any personal goals as far as the wrestling business goes?
It's kind of hard to tell because wrestling's so unpredictable. You know what I mean? It can just anything can happen at any time. You know what I mean? I'm not sure where I'm going to go. I'm not sure what's going to happen. You know, I just don't. I really don't know. But I'm willing to put in the time and the work to see how far it takes me. Mm-hmm. That's for damn sure. You know, but I also got to remember that I do have a family to support too. So whatever decision I make, I want to make sure it's the best decision for myself and my family, you know, and not just myself.
Definitely.
You know, so
there's so much wrestling happening weekly now, from WWE to Ring of Honor to anything and everything you could possibly find on the internet. Do you watch wrestling right now, and to the point that you're involved in? To take things, I don't know, to where you still take it in and to watch, to learn new things of what's going on. I mean, all in all, do you still watch what's happening around now?
I do and I don't. I'm around it so much that I hear and kind of know what's going on anyways. Mm-hmm. But I like, if I'm gonna like go back and I'm gonna study, I watch everything. You know what I mean? I watch all different kinds of wrestling, from top to bottom, anything. But right now, recently, I've been watching a lot of older stuff, like, you know, 80s, you know, like just I always rewatch older stuff back, and I watch some new stuff too. So it's like a mix of everything, really. I just put on wrestling and just, you know, just watch whatever I can, basically, sure. You know, so.
Yeah, I mean, for us, you know, it's with the WWE network now to where it's nice to where we don't have to go buy the DVDs and all that. We can just pay the $10 and watch anything we want from whatever time. So that's what's great about being a wrestling fan these days, I guess, because they don't have the struggle of getting the VHS tapes or just buying a million DVDs.
Yeah,
so.
And, like, I believe there's something out there for everybody. You know what I mean? Wrestling is really there's really no rules. You can pretty much do whatever you want. So there's something out there for everybody to enjoy. You know, some guys like the you know, guys that do a bunch of spots, and guys like the other thing. You know, it's just there's something for everybody. So it's kind of cool, and I enjoy all of it. I enjoy a little bit of everything.
Lightning round.
The next tattoo, do you have in mind?
Oh, something Goonies related on my leg.
All right. How about your favorite band?
I'm a big fan of, like, there's a few, like Manson, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam's up there, all those kind of things.
All right. Who do you think the toughest guy in Northeast Wrestling is?
Me.
Or the favorite movie of all time?
Low Off Life.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we said it right before, too. How about, has there been the worst injury you suffered wrestling-related?
Dislocated shoulder.
Ooh, all right. And some people would be surprised to know about you.
I'm afraid of sharks. I mean, I don't know. That was just a random thought. But I am afraid of sharks. And the reason why I said that, because there was another shark sighting in Cape Cod, and I was asked to go to the beach today, and it freaked me out. So.
Well, don't invite Vinny over for Shark Week, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Don't. If there's any sharks in your pool, please release them into the ocean so I can swim in your pool.
Well, Vinny, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Where can the fans who are listening to you right now keep up with you on social media and all that?
Oh, absolutely. You can check me out on Twitter. It's at Vinny_Marseglia. That's Marseglia. And same thing as Instagram, and Facebook is also the same thing as well.
Well, great.
Vinny, and I got a lot of Inksanity shirts coming out, so make sure you check those bad boys out. And thank you guys for having me tonight, seriously.
Definitely. And we'll see you at all the upcoming shows for Northeast Wrestling. Make sure you head on over to northeastwrestling.com and pick up your tickets today. And we'll see Vinny at a show sometime in the near future.
Absolutely. See you guys there. Thank you.